what we're going to do is talk about going up to Jerusalem in the Kingdom Age. So one of the most amazing things in the Kingdom Age is that everybody will go up to Jerusalem. Possibly not every year, but it may well have to be that way, that everybody goes to Jerusalem to learn of what's going on there. Now, look what it says in the Scriptures. Now, incidentally, my screen doesn't work here, so I'm going to have to be rude at times, turn my back on you to see it up here. We'll say to our subjects, let us go to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways. So all nations will go up to Jerusalem in that day. Why? Well, because of the wonders that are there, but more particularly that they might learn of the things of God. It really will be such a wonderful time. You think of the crazy world we're in now, and think of how it will be when everybody wants to go up to Jerusalem. And we'll encourage them and say, a day in the courts in Jerusalem is better than 1,000 anywhere else. You know, you turn with me to Zechariah just for a minute, to Zechariah 14. You know, when the kingdom comes, everybody is going to make sure they're doing the right thing, or they might get coronavirus. Have a look at this, Zechariah chapter 14, and look at verse 18. Okay, maybe we'll pick at verse 17. And it shall be that whosoever will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, Yahweh Sabaoth, even upon them shall be no rain. And the family of Egypt, well, of course, you see, they got the Nile, so they don't need rain, do they? And if the family of Egypt go not up, and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague, wherewith Yahweh will smite the heathen that come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. See, so they'll get coronavirus, or something of that nature. All right, well, let's have a look at the situation. So here's the world. And what's going to happen? Revelation chapter 5 verse 10. Can anybody tell me what that tells us? Don't have to look it up. Revelation 5 verse 10. Yes. Everybody will be kings and priests, top of the class. All right, so this will be where we are. I don't know what country you'll be in, but probably we'll look after Australia. Okay? And we'll come to the Jerusalem. Everybody will come from South Africa, New Zealand, China, you name it, where Christadelphians are. They will be looking after those countries as king priests. Kings rule, priests teach. And will come from every part of the world, from the other part of the world. But how will we take our subjects there? That's the issue, that's the question. Well, we don't really know, but we can have a guess. Well, how might we travel to the land? You remember the Ethiopian in Acts chapter 8? Do you remember Philip came and talked to him, and after him he went from one spot to another. How did he get there? Just went like that. Just like the angels. Well, probably if we got a bit of a problem with a South Australian you're looking after, you're a king priest looking after the people here, ruling and teaching them, you just go like that and you're over to Jerusalem and maybe talking to somebody there like Jeremiah or somebody who'll know all the answers because they've had a pretty tough lot, and zap, you'll be back here. But not the ordinary people. Not the ordinary people, the mortals of the kingdom age. When they want to go to Jerusalem, well, the only suggestion you can have is possibly Tarshish ships. The ships are Tarshish military ships. The psalm tells us that they will be destroyed by an east wind. But the other ships might survive. And maybe that's why there's so many cruise vessels around the place. You know, for some people who've been around for a bit lately, they will know that they could go beautifully. Everybody. There's huge capacity in them. And we could go possibly to Jerusalem. So, hey, look at Isaiah 60 just for a moment. All right? We better not look at too many quotes. I really wasn't intending to look at much at all, but I was hopefully everybody to ask questions and fill in details for me, so I can't miss the boat. But anyhow, Isaiah 60 verse 9 says, surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships at Tarshish first, to bring thy sons from afar, their silver and the gold with them, unto the name of Yahweh thy God, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he hath glorified thee. So we will probably wish to donate gifts and things like that to the temple and such like. And we will go, as the scripture says. And then, well, come back just for a moment. If we come in here, we're going to come in at the bottom part of Israel. Others might come to, the Tel Aviv coast or something like that, more further south near Beersheba, and come aside, those coming in this side. We'll look at that in a second. So here we are. We come, and we will then have to move through what was once desert. If you come in it through the Red Sea and come up the Gulf of Eilat, we'll look at that in a bit more detail in a minute, then we would have to go through what would normally be Negev desert. But that won't be the case then. Of course, the desert will blossom as the rose. And we will head to the hostile city, Yahweh Shammah. Come with me to Isaiah 23. Now, Isaiah 23 is a chapter that relates to Tarshish, particularly. There's actually 10 titles in that chapter. Relates to Tyre, Tarshish, the ships at Tarshish, and so forth. But let's first of all look at verse 17. It's amazing because this has just been fulfilled this year. And it shall come to pass at the end of 70 years that Yahweh will visit Tyre, and she shall turn to her hire, and shall commit fornication with all the kingdoms of the world upon the face of the earth. Now, as I said to you, there's 10 titles there, which are all blurred together, really talking about the trading power, which I think is the British Commonwealth power. Okay, now they joined up with the Europe at the close of World War II. Churchill precipitated it, and they joined in 1949. It says 70 years and a few months they'll leave. 70 years, 2019, and a few months, 2020. The start of this year they left. Now, look at the next verse. Going a little quickly there, so slow me down if you want me to. And her merchandise and her hire shall be holiness to Yahweh. It shall not be treasured nor laid up, for her merchandise shall be for them that dwell before Yahweh, to eat sufficiently and for durable clothing. So they will obviously, the wealth of Britain, America, Australia, New Zealand will be poured into the promised land. Okay? No other questions? Don't hesitate. But let's move on. Okay, now, this is a little summary, but you see, what will the future temple be like? The scriptures repeatedly, and I'll show you in a second, repeatedly speak of it as being a city, like a city. Huge, this temple, really huge. It repeatedly says it'll be like a mountain, the high mountain, the holy mountain. All the nations come up to it. Okay? And then lastly, it shows it's a place where all nations can worship. Okay? Now that's stated repeatedly in Scripture. Here's a picture of some of the quotes. Now I've got that here for you if you would like it. I believe you can photocopy them. If you wanted to, there's a black and white one. There's one with the red colour. And if anybody wants those quotes, I don't expect you to take them down just now. You've got them there if you'd like them. Okay? If there's only two who wants it, will you come and pinch these two? All right? So there we go. But the Scriptures is full of it. The temple will be like a huge city. It will be like around a mountain. Well, we know that. And it will be, all nations will visit it. So it's got to be big. And it'll be built by all nations. It'll be something that's not something that can be done in a moment. All right? And, well, there we are. So it is a very significant site that we're talking about. Let's move on. So it will be not a small temple, but it will be a large temple like Brother Sully says in Ezekiel's temple. All right? So, well, our beliefs that it was going to be big came from even before his day. Here's Dr. Thomas is writing, Brother Sully quotes it, and he said, picking up what he said, a very large building. Again, in Christadelphian in the 1890s, more magnificent than any building. So it's going to be the most magnificent building probably anywhere in the world at that time. It's going to be amazing. And so it's going to be a wonderful thing to go to. Everybody will want to go, you know. So it will be the work of probably 40 years to build that temple. The first 10 years from Christ's return to Armageddon will be the judgment of the saints and then the events of Armageddon. Certainly there will be fighting after that because of Roman Catholicism, and that will be oppressed. But during that time, from then on to then, 40 years, the land will be in peace. And the sensible nations, which are called the sheep nations, will be sending their wealth to there to help build that temple. The foolish Italian papal nations, they're called the goat nations, and they won't do that. They won't do that, and they will be later on judged because of it. And so the temple will be completed, I believe, at the end of a millennium, a jubilee, from Christ's return to the ushering into the millennium. Probably take up to 40 years to build. All right? After Jerusalem will be in peace, then that temple, the commencement of that work will continue. All right? So then, what a different world it will be. You want to go to Jerusalem, you'll say to your people, well, let's go. You see, the world will be a time of peace, so different to what it is now. And Christ will be king over all, and they will be subjected to him. So you see today, everywhere, preparing for war. All right? And tomorrow, the nations will learn war no more. It will be such a different place to what you know today. You turn on the radio and listen, day after day, chaos, but not then. So, who will be the future rulers in that kingdom age? Well, first of all, Christ. He will be the ruler of the world. We won't turn these quotes up, but Revelation 19 verse 6 says he will. Obviously, we know that. And then, what about the apostles? Well, the scripture says they will sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So in the land, the prime rulers of the land will be the apostles. I believe there will be others there. I'm pretty sure Jeremiah will be there. Does anybody know why we know Jeremiah will be there?
Title deed.
Sorry?
His title deed.
Yeah, he's got a block of land already established. And they buried the title deeds waiting for him. So when the kingdom age comes, he will certainly be there. And lastly, the saints. But that will be us, rulers or teachers, that shall reign on the earth. And so I believe that probably wherever we're living, you know, so somebody might be looking after Suva, okay, or Nandi or something like that. We might be looking after Adelaide, different districts of Adelaide, or maybe Whyalla, Port Lincoln or something like that. We'll be rulers over those areas, and then our group will wish to go. They will hear about the temple, and they will say, let's go. Swarms of them will come to us. We've heard of this wonderful temple. Let's go up. Please take us. And so what will we do? Well, the annual visit will come. Now, annual, obviously everybody else can't go at the same time. So just as seasons change in different parts of the world will go back to more an agricultural-based economy. We won't be, huge industrial productions as times pass. And so according to the seasons, there will be different times when we can go to that land, to the land of Israel. Okay? So we will hear of the majesty of the land, and we will desire to go up and to learn of the magnificence of that temple area. They will also be warned of the consequences if they don't go. We looked at that one, didn't we, just a few minutes ago. Some won't get any rain if they don't go. Others, well, they get the plague. All right? So the message is pretty solid. Everybody will want to go, but if you don't, there's something wrong. And they will be judged because of it, so that they might be subject to the Lord Jesus Christ and to us, and to the desire to follow the truth. What a wonderful spirit that will be. What a wonderful spirit that will be. So we will be the kings that assemble and pass on together. And with our people, we will marvel at that wonderful temple, Don't you long for it? Don't you long for it? Well, here's us coming in. There we are. I don't know which cruise vessel it is. Can you give me a name of one? But anyhow, there we are. Maybe it's the Princess Cruise, but we might call it one from South Australia on that occasion. And there we are aboard, probably up in the cabin where the captain is and a few others like that. And we come in there. Possibly the whole countryside will have changed with earthquakes and things like that with Armageddon, but probably it's still there. We'll come into Eilat from the southern hemisphere. And then when we do that, we want to go up through the Negev. And here's the Negev today. There's one of our pictures when we went there. Doesn't it look wonderful? Well, in those days, it's going to look like this. That actually is the Negev today, where the Jews are irrigating. Parts of it, they've got enough water and they're irrigating in some parts of it. Well, the desert will blossom as the rose. That part of it certainly will anyhow. All right? And so it will be something beautiful as we travel up from Eilat up here to where the hostile city is. And more on that in a second. But meanwhile, coming from Britain and America, they'll probably come in like that. Okay? And come in to that area. Now that area, incidentally, will be from there to there and there to there will be lifted up. More on that in a second. So that's the area in the temple. So here we are, the whole land will be divided. Genesis at 15 says, "Unto thy seed have I given this land from the river of Egypt to the river Euphrates." So from the Nile, or maybe another river over here in those days, I'm not sure, right through to here, that whole land will be divided up and under the administration, primarily the apostles, but occupied by the Jewish people. Okay? And there's all the tribes laid out for us as it is represented in Ezekiel, the latter part, chapter 40 onwards. But the whole land from the river to Egypt is divided into 12 cantons, 7 on the north and 5 on the south. And then in the middle is this holy canton, the holy canton. This is where the temple is. By now all the Jews will have returned to the land from all nations. Incidentally, did you know that according to the talk we had with about the Jews just only a few weeks ago, they reckon that about 200% increase of Jews coming from South America and a 300% coming from the Northern American area because of this coronavirus. They're flocking back to the land of Israel. They see that as a great blessing in the land. But I'm not sure it's solving the coronavirus for them. But they are moving out in big numbers to the land now. But my goodness, when Elijah comes, after Armageddon, they will come in bigger numbers back to that land. All right, so here's the Holy Canton. Okay, there I believe will be a fault line, and there will be a fault line. More on that in a minute. And that whole area will be lifted up. So there it is, a simple picture. There it is, a bit more coloured in, and it's in that particular area there, the Holy Canton. So now, what's it like? Well, that southern part, let me come back to that again. That area there is the hostile city, where people will be accommodated. So when you bring your people up from Adelaide or, from Nandi or, you name it, this is where you're going to go, all right? And you go to this hostile city in that particular area. The pilgrims will no longer stay at Jerusalem as they do today, or they did in times past, the vision of peace, but now at Yahweh Shammah. Yahweh is there. Not there, but in the city. It's not a vision of what's going to happen. It's come to pass now. So it would be wrongly named. So we stay there, and we will take our people up to Jerusalem. Now, the Holy Canton territory is about the hostile city is 10 miles by about 10 miles, or 1.6 something or other kilometres, 16 point something or other kilometres by 16 point something kilometres, a square area like the temple itself, but bigger, larger, where we can put our people up. And In these districts here and here, Jews will inhabit that area, and they will be farming areas. And they will bring their food into us at the hostel city. So there won't be have to pack up your lunch and take it with you on that ship or anything like that. Everything will be provided. And they will bring the food from these areas into here, into that city area. Well, let's have a look at the city area. There it is. Oh no, that's Adelaide. All right. Now let's put the city on the top of Adelaide. Thought I'd put Aberfoyle Park there for us. So there it is. It's supposed to be a hostel city, about 10 miles or 16 point something or other kilometres by 16 point something kilometres. All right. So let's put it there. There it is. Or there it is. Okay? It's apparently, you know, if you put people into that area, it wouldn't be difficult to house about 3 million people. Okay, there won't be the streets like we have today. They don't probably need cars to go around. And they won't need a lot of, you know, grass out the back and things like that, because you're only coming to stay there for a limited amount of time and not stay in that city to go to Jerusalem. It's only a base from which people will go. So there we are. There's that area. But let's have a look at it again. There's the size of the temple. Okay? It's always interesting to go to Adelaide, isn't it? A mile square, the size of the temple. So as we go to Adelaide each day, the central part of Adelaide, it's always reminding us of the fact that the temple, sorry, it's a little off square, the central bit there, but the temple is that size there, mile by mile square. All right? Any questions? Okay. So, the land, though, will be very dramatically changed. The Mount of Olives will be divided. Remember, his feet shall stand on the Mount of Olives, and it will divide. Zechariah chapter 14. But maybe have a look at this with me. Come with me to Zechariah 14 again. It says to us, the Holy Canton and Jerusalem will be lifted up. So if you come to Zechariah 14, we're not going to get into this in too much detail at this stage. We will show it a little later on. But have a look at these verses here. We'll start with verse 9. And Yahweh shall be king over all the earth. In that day there shall be one Yahweh and his name one. All the land shall be turned as a plain. Now that's an elevated area. So it's lifted up from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem, and shall be lifted up and inhabited in her place from Benjamin's gate unto the place of the first gate, unto the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananeel unto the king's winepress. And men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. So here we are. It's going to be lifted up. That's the boundaries of the Holy Canton. The River Jordan, as we'll look at in a minute, will be reversed. Okay? Mount Zion, where the temple is going to be, it's going to obviously be lifted up. Lifted up so that it's higher than Mount Hermon. We'll look at that in a minute. And volcanic consequences appear to be what happens to Gog. We'll look at that in a second too. So here we are. The land today is got a lot of fault lines in it. One of the most major fault lines going through land in the whole world passes down here. It ends up down into South Africa and actually goes out into the sea toward the east and then goes up through the Atlantic. It's a huge fault line, okay, a massive fault line. And there it is, split into two parts there. Now, all the land shall be turned as a plain from Geba to Rimmon, and it shall be lifted up. Shall we see that? Let's have a look. There's the fault lines, okay, through Geba and Rimmon, and we're going to look at it from that direction. So we're going to twist it around for a second. Here it is. So we're going to look from that way. Can you follow that? See what I've done? I've gone and twisted the whole picture around. Okay? So now let's look at it. There it is. We're looking at it from the side. There's those fault lines. Now, anybody lost? Need to see that again? Nope. Okay. So let's see if it lifts up. Oh, it is. But I can't stop it. I don't know if anybody's a guru here, but it just keeps going up and down for me. But in Christ's day, it'll go up and stay up. All right? Okay. Oh, it stopped. Good. I didn't realise that. Anyhow, now let's take another point for a minute. Ezekiel chapter 39 says to us in verses 11 to 12, you could turn it up if you want to, but it's here. In that day, that I will give unto Gog a place there of the graves in Israel. So here's the Russian force coming into Israel. You're going to be buried there, he says. You know how I'm going to do it? Look, the valley of the passengers on the east of the sea is where I'm going to bury you. So where it is exactly, we don't know, but I'll put it halfway down. There's the sea, on the east of the sea. And they shall call it the valley of Hamon-Gog, the burial of them, the burial of Gog. And 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying them. That's going to be a monumental task. Why would it take 7 months? This is the army that's going to come in. It's going to be huge. All nations shall come down to Jerusalem for war, won't they? And what's going to happen to them? Well, we don't know. But I tell you what, this is very interesting. In 1902, that volcano there it is there, erupted. There's a picture of it beginning to erupt. Only took a couple of minutes, and that city there turned into that. 1902. The mountain was called, here it is, Mont Pelé. There it is. It's in the Caribbean group there. Okay? And this township, about 10 kilometres away, was called St. Pierre. Okay? And what happened was, the volcano was acidic volcano. So whereas basaltic lava just flows like a river, acidic lava doesn't. It comes out like toothpaste. See? And here it is there. There's the volcano. Look at the lava went up so far, and then the side of the mountain just burst open, and out of it came volcanic lava like a pressure packed can under massive pressure. Split the mountain. Boom! Out it came little tiny droplets of liquid rock at 800 degrees centigrade plus. Okay, they don't know how hot it was, but they know it's molten above 800. So it could have been 1,200 degrees centigrade or whatever. But as it rolled down the mountain, it got up, the hot air came bursting from it, and it pushed it along, it jetted it along. Hills in the way, just went straight over the top, hit that township there. One person survived. Poor chap. He was in a prison underground. That's the only reason he survived. Okay? In the harbour with those ships, they just sank. There was one ship coming into the harbour, and people raced up onto the deck to look. Oh, it's horrible to say. Their eyes and their tongue just burnt out. Just burnt. It was only later on when people came out finally on that ship from the engine rooms and things like that, they realised what had happened. Huge eruption and destroyed them. Now, that echoes exactly what we got here. Look at Zechariah 14, verse 12. And this is the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people that fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet. Their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away with their mouth, and such like. The Gogian who comes into the Middle East is going to be destroyed like that, in a flash. It may well be, we don't know, but it may well be like Pompeii. Pompeii is the Italian volcano. The Italian peninsula's got lots of good volcanoes in it, but many, many years ago, I think it was AD 79, am I right? It blew up. Thanks, Max. It blew up like one of those there, and when it did, the ash went across. It wasn't quite the same. It wasn't ignimbrite. It wasn't acidic lava, but the ash went across Pompeii, and the people were buried. And in that case, the ash went hard, and they poured plaster of Paris into the area where their bodies were, cracked it away, and this is what they found. All the people in their agony, so that those can be seen today. Well, when we take our people from Hostel City here's those fault lines, remember? And we want to go to Mount Zion, will go this way. And we'll call into Haman Gog. Be like calling into Pompeii. But you see, what's going to happen? Well, before we go to Mount Zion, we will go past this area. We'll go up through there, coming past there, and we will see... I thought I had something else there. Let me come back. I might have missed something. Yes, this is what I wanted, that quote up above. Look at what it says. And it shall stop the noses, the margin in Ezekiel 39 says, the mouths of the passengers, and there shall they bury Gog and all his multitude. So every, any rebellion will be silenced. People come from all countries around the world, as they think a bit rebellious about these Christadelphians ruling over everybody, as they go past Haman Gog, and they look at this, their rebellion will be silenced. Who'd ever wanted to go against what caused that to happen? The great God of heaven. They will not rebel. They will be silenced. Their mouths shall be shut as they see what goes on. Well, all right, let's come to Zion then. So when we come to Zion, we will come up through here, it would seem, following the route of Joshua now. So we'll come up like that. And here we are. He is looking towards Moab. We're looking from this area across to here in that picture there. So we will come up through that route that Joshua followed of old. And again, now we're coming across the top end. Here's the top end of the Dead Sea. So around like that. So here's our movement across the top of the Dead Sea. There you are, brethren and sisters. You've probably got 1,000 South Australians or a couple of thousand South Australians with you, and you're talking about the Bible as you go along, and you're on the way to Jerusalem. We won't get tired. We're immortal, and everything will be going fine. And as we do so, brethren and sisters, the Jordan Valley will be very different to what it is today. There it is. You see, today it's a fault valley, all right? But you see, in that day, that valley will change. That will come up. And this part here will be lifted up. Oh yes, the Dead Sea will still be there. It's not lifted up that it's disappeared altogether, but you'll see in a second, it will change. You see, here's the Dead Sea now. Here's the Sea of Galilee. There's the north of the land. There's the south. Everybody okay following that? Just looking to see everybody. If anybody goes like that, I'll know. Okay? All right, so what's going to happen is, that's the water now goes down there. From a living sea to a dead sea. Right? Okay? But then it will be different. It will go from the Dead Sea to the living sea. And the Dead Sea will change. It will no longer be dead, so to speak. So the water will probably come out through that area there. Happy with that? Exactly where it goes and how it gets into the Mediterranean, what valley, we're not sure. But we do know that the water will be reversed. It will go the other way. Now here's part of the proof of that. You see, in Ezekiel it says this, these waters from Mount Zion issue toward the east country and go into the Dead Sea, which shall be healed. And there shall be a very great multitude of fish. So it's got to be healed. It can't be, 20% salt or something like that today. It's got to be this water coming from here down through here will cause that sea to be regenerated. Okay? They'll even have fishermen there, catching fish. And then the waters will flow to the north. Their fish shall be the fish of the great Mediterranean Sea, exceeding many. So the fish probably get into it somehow through the Mediterranean, up into that area there, and there will be the fish. Any questions on that? Okay, so now, this is probably, maybe we'll turn it up. Come and look at Psalm 68. Psalm 68 talks about us coming from Mount Sinai, doesn't it? It's one of the three key quotes that speak of Mount Sinai as the basis of judgment. We take it from about verse 17. The chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of messengers it should be, or change ones actually the Hebrew means, and The Lord, it's Hebrew, is actually Yahweh in the original, among them as in Sinai, in the holy place. So here we are. So, but look at verse 15 and 16. The hill of God, that's Mount Zion, is as the hill of Bashan. That's Mount Hermon, the highest mountain. A high hill as the hill of Bashan. Why leap ye high hills? This is the hill which God desired to dwell in. Yea, Yahweh will dwell in it forever. So when the Battle of Armageddon takes place, it says in, let me think if I can get it, Isaiah, I think it's 30 verse 28, the towers shall fall. New York, Singapore, Adelaide, a few will come tumbling down. They will come down. But what also will happen in that big earthquake, because the River Jordan is reversed, the result will be, whoops, went too far, there's Hermon today, so we're looking from the Dead Sea up there, that's going to come down, and Zion is going to come up. It will be like Hermon. There's Hermon today. All right? Let's look at it again. You see, the hill of God is as the hill of Bashan. It's now 9,200 feet high. What's that? About 3 times Mount Lofty. Okay? And Mount Zion, well, if it's going to match it, it's got to be 2.7 times lifted up. It could actually just rock and not quite be equal to Hermon, but it will be higher than Hermon in that day. Higher than Hermon. So there is Zion today, but it's going to be like that. Lifted up. It's going to be very prominent indeed. All right? Any questions? Okay. So, now we've turned left and we're going to cross the River Jordan. All right? And we're going to head toward the temple. So here we are. We're looking toward the west. From the Jordan Valley up toward the temple. There it is. And it really is going to be wonderful. And as we move west, the Valley of Achor will be as a door of hope for us as we see the temple in the distance at the top of the valley. It will certainly be a door of hope for the mortals, but even for us it will be wonderful. So I haven't got that around the right way. I'm not quite sure I know how to get that, so I did a bit of a twiggle, you'll see in a minute. But anyhow, there's the Holy Canton, and we're now looking toward the temple there. All right, as we look there. Let's try and push it around. The writing will be wrong. There it is. Okay. I didn't know how to do it any other way, but there we go. So we'll be looking toward the west, okay, toward the Mediterranean, which is behind it, and we'll be looking from that valley toward the temple as we go up that valley of Achor. All right? So, now, here it is. Down there will come 2 streams which may merge together eventually. Revelation says, pure rivers of water of life. The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. So it could be symbolic, but I believe it also will be literal. People will come up to Jerusalem, and as they do, they can have some of the fruit in this particular valley. And if they've got an illness, gone like that. Because they've faithfully done the right thing, come to worship at the temple, to learn of God, and so they will be healed. Ezekiel says, these waters issue out toward the east country, everything that, and wherever it go, everything that will live. Whithersoever the rivers come, they shall live. So, that valley is just going to be booming with growth and plants and trees. It will be absolutely magnificent. We'll turn from the side of the Dead Sea, which won't be too bad then. But as we turn into here, we'll never seen anything like it. And then with the temple at the top. It just will be absolutely magnificent. So here it is. The temple will be covered by cloud and smoke by day and fire by night. So here we are. We're moving up towards this area here. Daytime. Some of the smoke. I'll show you a better picture of the smoke in a minute. But there's a bit of the smoke. And here at night time, that's meant to be covered by fire. So you can see it will be magnificent to see. Absolutely magnificent to see. It will be a completely different picture the situation we see in temples and things like that, or buildings today. So here it is. I'll take that one back one. There we are, there's another picture. There it's covered with smoke. Okay? And maybe at night time that lifts and you can see the fires underneath it during the night. So it will be an incredibly magnificent temple when we come to it. Whoops, now that went twice. Great is Yahweh, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, in the mountain of his holiness. It's magnificent. Beautiful for situation or elevation. The joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion. What a wonderful prospect it will be to go to that temple. Well, we will take our people up, and we will probably come to the north side of the temple. And as we do want to go to the temple, anybody wants to has got to cross one of those rivers. The rivers go from quite shallow up here to quite deep further down. And what we will do, we will take our people from Adelaide and we will say to them, here's the Levites, the Jewish people, and they will be there. Could you please look after these people from Australia? We'll leave them with you. We will be met by our Levitical priests. They will minister to them. They will instruct the visitors on the etiquette of worship. One of the things they're going to have to do is cross that stream, effectively like baptism, repeated each time they visit that temple. See? Firstly, we learn only that the prince may enter the east gate. So they can come from the north, or if they want to, from the south. And lastly, before we enter, all must be washed in the stream of living waters that comes down here. Remember those waters, the plants of it, hill? It will be a magnificent scene that will be in that day. And lastly, they will make animal sacrifices there at the north side and first fruits offered at the south side, as Ezekiel says. Now we will leave our people there. And what I think we'll probably do, as Uncle Max said to us a few minutes ago, we'll go over and see a block of land about 3 to 4 kilometres away, owned by Jeremiah. And probably we'll knock on the door, and the door's opened. We'll go over and have a chat to Jeremiah. We've got a bit of problem with these South Australians. They're probably as difficult as some of those Jews in your day. What did you do with somebody who did this or this? And we will knock on the door, and probably it won't be answered by Jeremiah. Do you reckon? Anybody like to tell me who might answer it? Yeah, Ebal Malak. You know, an Ethiopian, black-faced, bright eyes. Oh, welcome, welcome. You're from Aberfoyle Park, Ecclesia. Come on in, come on in. You've got a bit of a problem. Jeremiah, can you help? And Jeremiah might be there. Or we might even see Barak or somebody like that who was alive in that day, a friend of Jeremiah. And we might be helped and assisted while our people will go through the temple led by that Levitical group. So, there is a correct pathway, as I said before. When the people of the land shall come before Yahweh in the solemn feast, he entereth by the way of the north gate, must go out by the way of the south gate. You've got to go right through the mile length of the temple. And he that enters by the way of the south gate, go out by the way of the north gate. So let's have a look at it. There's the temple laid out. There's a picture of the outside wall. There's the central altar area. Here's the inner court. So if we do, we could come through like that, or they might come out like that, going through that temple area. And as well as that, there's a lot of detail on this. We won't look at this. But there's Ezekiel chapter 40, the breakdown of Ezekiel chapter 40. It tells us all sorts of details about the gates, about the outer court, about the northern gate, about, where's number 4, the southern gate, the inner gate, okay? The inner gate on the east side and so on. All the details of the temple are given for us now. We can look at that as we read, doing our readings. We're in Ezekiel now, aren't we? And so in about a month's time, we'll probably be up in that area, reading about that. And we can read all these details in Ezekiel chapter 40, what it's going to look like. And what you can tell your South Australians all about when they're coming up toward the temple. This is this, and this will be like this. And as well as that, the next chapter is much the same, with further details about all the things that are going on or built into that temple. So it will be very different to any other building that's ever been seen. So here's the entry gates. They're amazing. So we could enter in from the north side or the south side, and they can enter through that water into those entry gates through here. And inside there are rooms where you can talk with some of the Levites and such like. At the gates there are sacrifice places to offer sacrifices where the Australians, South Australians can offer their sacrifices and so forth. There's the most holy place, the central part of the temple where the altar is, and some sacrifices will go up to there to be offered. But what about us? Well, we've left Jeremiah, but where might we go? Go over and see Jesus. You know what Jesus said to us many, many years ago? But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of the fruit of the vine until the day I drink it with you in my Father's house, my Father's kingdom. Isn't that thrilling? So it may not be just simply the apostles. I believe it will be also us. And we will come up and maybe have a memorial meeting with our Lord somewhere in that temple. It will be a wonderful prospect that we have. Well, I think we will agree. And so will all those from South Australia you take, or from Fiji or wherever, up to that temple. They will indeed agree with us. Nothing it's been ever seen in the earth that's like that. And we will agree a day in his courts is better than 1,000 anywhere. It will be wonderful. And it will be wonderful with our people that we take up there in that kingdom age. Well, I'll leave it there. That's all we've got to say. But if there's any questions you'd like to ask quickly, I've got about 5 more minutes. I'm sure some of the others might help me to answer it. Okay? All right. Well, we can probably chat about it afterwards if you like.